There were other games that happened this weekend that we need to discuss on the schedule. A lot of bye weeks this week, actually. Florida, Oklahoma. Who else was on bye? I'm not remembering exactly who. Some of the teams at Tennessee are playing. They played each other this past weekend. Looking at the schedule, Duke beat Syracuse 38-3 in the JMA Wireless Dome. Poor Syracuse, man. No Steve Angeli is really going to hurt them. So I'm afraid that loss or win is not going to age well for Tennessee with the loss of Steve Angeli, which is a real shame because I think he is a solid quarterback. Moving on down here, Mercer beat ETSU 38-34. Alabama defeated Georgia 24-21. And this is one, I'll admit, I was completely wrong about this game. Kalen DeBoer has a habit of doing this. They win games that are against some of the very best teams in the country, and then they'll play somebody who is obviously inferior the next week, and they'll lose by multiple scores. I don't know what that's all about, but they keep doing it. But they won this week. They never trailed in the game. They led by as much as 10 at points. And Georgia, I'll tell you what, Georgia's living dangerously. It's like Tennessee back in 2016 with Butch Jones, where you're down 14 plus points in like 4 different games. Tennessee was lucky to win all those games, by the way, that they did in 2016, because eventually you saw where you had games against Texas A&M, Alabama, South Carolina, all back to back, where your luck runs out. So that's something that they're going to have to fix down there in Georgia. You got to start quicker because obviously it's about how you finish, but if you start slow, you can get yourself in trouble just as easily. Ty Simpson looked very, very good in that game for Alabama. Statistically speaking, he's been good all year. He just had the one game against Florida State where he made a few not so great decisions as that game wore on. And Georgia, man, they were just plagued. They had a drop that would have resulted in a go ahead touchdown in that game, and in the final, I think 5 minutes, they had a guy streaking wide open down the field and just totally dropped the ball in front of the end zone. Happened to be wearing number 11 too, which is what Arian Smith, the Lord of the Drops last year for Florida, or not Florida, Georgia, was wearing a season ago. So maybe Bama's better than we think. I don't know. I would not be surprised if they dropped one to Vandy or Mizzou, though, in the 2 weeks before they play Tennessee.
Well, I almost wonder if it's just a mental block with Georgia. I mean, because I was looking up during the game, Georgia's 1-6, or Kirby Smart, I should say, is 1-6 against Alabama going into that game, and now he's 1-7. I mean, I've argued before. I mean, how many times have we talked about Tennessee having a better team than Florida and not being able to get the job done? I mean, I feel like sometimes there's just some voodoo hanging over your head that makes it hard to get things done. And I feel like Nick Saban may have left a bad taste in Kirby Smart's mouth, and it's just been hard, regardless of Nick Saban being there or not, hard for Georgia to win games. Which, I mean, to be fair, I mean, that's how Tennessee and Georgia's been recently. Georgia's been the one team that Tennessee's routinely not been able to get past this season. So, I mean, I almost wonder if there's just a mental block there for Kirby Smart. And then you talked about Ty Simpson too. I remember a couple weeks ago on podcast, we were talking about these NFL scouts not being able to like properly evaluate some of these quarterbacks and stuff. And one thing that I've noticed from Ty Simpson, I mean, he makes some pretty good throws. I mean, he can zip it in there. But what's another thing, another common denominator with him is that he's been playing college football for a long time. We see Bo Nix now in the NFL like doing well, or I haven't really kept up with him much this season, but last season did pretty well, and he was in college forever. So got to be wary of some of these quarterbacks that have been sitting around for a while. I mean, and look at Aguilar too, and all of. I mean, he had a lot of experience coming into Tennessee. So I don't think I think experience is very important, and there should be some more emphasis on it instead of just looking at some of these certain things like strong arms or fast legs.
Yeah, did not have Georgia losing a game at home this year, but here we are. And they play a couple tough games at home, too, not just that one. So keep your eyes on that as we go down the road. Going to get to this Arkansas game later because we need to have a little bit of a lengthy discussion about it. They lost 56-13 to Notre Dame, but we'll come back to that in a second. South Carolina 35, Kentucky 13. Kentucky's not good. I think we all know that. But South Carolina, I got to say, man, they're living dangerously. I don't trust that offense still. Do you know how many? And I get it. Tennessee did it this week. They had multiple defensive touchdowns in the game. So you can say, who am I to judge? But at the same time, we've seen this in multiple games from South Carolina, not just the one. So 2 touchdowns for that South Carolina defense in this game, which is pretty wild that they keep doing this. But I think we're all in agreement that Kentucky is not going to be looking too good the rest of the way. Other games on the schedule here, New Mexico beat New Mexico State 38-20. Vandy beat Utah State 55-35. That game was close at halftime, but then Vandy really pulled away in the second half. So the Doors and the Tide will have College game day in Tuscaloosa. Imagine saying that to somebody 5 years ago, man. Just a completely different college football world we're living in. Bonus round for you, Northwestern 17, UCLA 14. Nico is now 0-4 out there. They, again, stat padding for Nico. He was in a 17-3 hole, or at least I think it was 17-0. I forget what exactly the score was. They were down double digits at one point. That game was going on while Tennessee was playing. And by the way, since it is a bye week, you can catch their game at home against Penn State on CBS at 3:30. So you can see an absolute beatdown against what will be a very angry Penn State team this week. So enjoy that while you can. And then final bonus round score that I have for you, ULM 28, Arkansas State 16. Butch Jones is now 1-4 this season at Arkansas State, if I'm not mistaken. So may have just played his way out of any other Power 4 jobs. So speaking of Power 4 jobs and the state of Arkansas, we do need to discuss this a little bit because it's probably the biggest story in the SEC right now with Sam Pittman getting fired. They lost 56-13 to Notre Dame, 400-plus yards of offense in the first half for the Irish. It looked like they had just given up in that game, Arkansas, and sure enough, it played out that way in the second half. Sam Pittman gets canned yesterday. Drink a beer in his honor, please. Because here's the thing. I like Sam Pittman. I think he's a really fun guy. He was really fun as a head coach to have in the SEC. He had some personality to him. Kind of like a cool uncle type vibe, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it with Sam Pittman. Guy that you'd want to hang out with every weekend. And he's a terrific offensive line coach too. So it's not as if he's not going to have any luck finding a job elsewhere, or, SEC Network could come calling as well. I think he would do well there. But some guys just aren't cut out to be head coaches. And I think Sam Pittman, unfortunately, is one of them. So hate it that he is gone. Bobby Petrino will now be the head coach of the Razorbacks coming into Neyland Stadium. The last time he was the head coach of a team that came into Neyland Stadium, do you remember what happened, Jordan?
In Neyland Stadium?
Yes.
No, I'm thinking about that punt return, though, which was at Arkansas. That's the thing that came to my mind. I know you know what I'm talking about, where there's like 9 broken tackles.
Second game of the 2013 season, second game of Butch Jones's tenure at Tennessee. The Vols hosted Western Kentucky, 52-20 win for the Vols at home. Do you remember that game? They had like 5 turnovers in the beginning of it. That's why I remember it so well.
Okay, I forgot about that Western Kentucky game. Yeah. Hey, wait, so he was the head coach at Western Kentucky during that time?
So he got canned from Arkansas because of the whole motorcycle thing, right? He ends up at Western Kentucky, and then he went to Louisville where he coached Lamar Jackson.
Dang, okay. I'm forgetting about some of this stuff. I mean, I guess my memories of him stopped with the neck brace.
Yeah. A lot of people's did. He was at Missouri State before he took an OC job at Texas A&M, I believe, which led him back to Arkansas to be an offensive coordinator.
What do you think the chances are of him becoming the next head coach?
There, honestly, if it's not him, it would be Rhett Lashley. I think those are the two that you have to talk about right now. If you are thinking about the next Arkansas head coaches, Austin says Sam on the SEC network would be awesome. I agree. Austin, he would be very awesome on the SEC network. That's a guy that has a future in some form of sports media as an analyst. If he doesn't want to get back into coaching. But I get it. Interims can inspire a team that's had their head coach fired, and maybe that's the case with Bobby Petrino because he's trying to coach his way back into an SEC coaching job, which maybe that ends up happening. We'll see. But you listen to the bigwigs at Arkansas right now, and you get a feel for how bad the situation really is. It's more akin to what happened at Tennessee in the years in which they were searching for a coach to replace Butch Jones, as opposed to just a normal coaching search. Because here's the deal. Hunter Yurachek, the AD, before like a couple weeks before he announced that Sam Pittman would no longer be the head coach at Arkansas, said verbatim, "We do not have the resources to be winning championships in the SEC right now." Today, in another press conference this afternoon, he said, we don't have the resources to compete at the highest level in the SEC. Sam did not have the highest level resources to compete in the SEC. That's a terrible look.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If Sam Pittman, if you're admitting that Sam did not have the best resources in the SEC and you fired him anyway, that's a terrible look on you, for one. Number two, I can think of at least 3 very, very wealthy families, 2 of which I know for a fact give money to Arkansas through large corporations and the Waltons and the Tysons, that they should not be struggling as much as they are. So knowing all this, I think that we have to it would be a mild disappointment if Tennessee did not at least score 35 in this game and win by 2+ touchdowns. That's how bad of a situation they are in right now.
And we've already talked about how Tennessee needs to win this game by a lot too. And I mean, especially more now without them having their head coach and after getting destroyed by Notre Dame as well. Yeah, I mean, admitting that publicly in press conferences is pretty wild because you're an SEC program and here you are without your head coach and you don't know who you're going to get yet. And what big name coach would want to come to play in Arkansas when you already openly admitted that you didn't even set up Sam Pittman for success? And on top of that, I mean, all the competition that's in the SEC as well. I mean, and Arkansas is not one of those historic programs either. I mean, they didn't join the SEC, I don't think, until like the mid 90s. Yeah, in the early 90s. They haven't even been around long enough to really become one of those powerhouse SEC programs. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know if I was a coach looking for a job, I mean, maybe if I'm from a smaller school, I take that risk because it could be my big opening. But I mean, like if you're talking about an already proven coach wanting to come to Arkansas, I mean, I feel like Bobby Petrino might be your only answer after having those press conference mishaps.
Well, Rhett Lashley too is another one I think you could lure in because he's an alum. And he's doing pretty well at SMU at the moment. Got them to a college football playoff, best team of the regular season in the ACC in 2024. Austin wants to know if Dan Mullen might get offered an FCC job this offseason. It's possible, but it would depend on the school. There's one school that's going to be looking for an SEC coach that will definitely not be hiring him. We know that. So you will not see him at Florida again anytime soon. That would leave Auburn and Kentucky as 2 places he could end up. And here's the thing, man. Kentucky, they don't have high expectations at Kentucky. They don't have high expectations at Mississippi State either. He was consistently winning 6, 7, 8 games at Mississippi State. You can do that at Kentucky, and those people will take you in. Just look at what's happened with Mark Stoops. How has he locked himself into that job for 14 years now? Because he's been able to do all that stuff. And if you can do that, then they're going to keep you around for a long time. I don't think Auburn would give him a look just because, that's a place where they expect a little bit more out of you. And then, of course, if Jeff Levy gets hired away by somebody, because Mississippi State is not a place you stay at forever. Hate to say that, but it's just the truth. Maybe Dan Mullen comes back to Starkville. You never know. I wonder how they feel about him after he ran off for Florida, but that remains to be seen if it ended up happening.